Hi everyone, how you doing? I hope your day is going well because mine is. If you're just joining me for the first time, this is Obehe and the Lore. Please kindly hit the subscribe button, subscribe to my channel so you can get all the latest news that you need, okay? And if you have been joining me, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As always, you know, it's a discussion, so it's not just a one-sided angle. It's not a documentary or a commentary. Don't mind me. Okay, so welcome back to Obey and the Law. And this time around, we're going to be talking about 2/3 of 36 states. So we're going to be critically examining two sections of the law. And the first section is section 134, sub 2, paragraph A and B of the 1999 Constitution as amended, as against section 126, sub 2, paragraph A and B of the 1979 Constitution now repealed, okay? Now, when you talk about 2/3 of a state, what do you mean? But first of all, let me just let you in on how the court interprets a particular statute. Now, there are 4 rules of interpretation of court. We have the literal rule, which is number 1. We have the golden rule, which is 2. We have the mischief rule and the purposive approach. Now, for the literal rule, simply put, is when you look at the section, what do you see? Interpret it with its ordinary meaning. Don't add anything, don't subtract. Whatever you see there, just interpret it like that. Do not do anything to the section. So what comes to your mind when you look at this section is what should be the interpretation going forward. But when you look at the golden rule talks about if you interpret it in its literal form, it may lead to a particular obnoxious meaning. It may equally lead to a harmful conclusion. Now, for example, there was a particular case where the law is clear. A man is supposed to inherit his mother's or his father's assets. Now, this man, this supposed son, killed his mother. Now, if we were to go with the literal interpretation, this would definitely give it an obnoxious purpose, you know, and the intentions of the legislature will not be fulfilled, okay? So that's where the golden rule. Okay, so continuing from where we stopped, looking at the golden rule, like I said earlier, the golden rule is a form of interpretation which is aided to eliminate absurdity in every form and to ensure that there is no obnoxious result. The outcome is not harmful. And a very vivid example is the Simpsons case, an 1835 case where a son killed his mother. Ordinarily, he was supposed to, or literally, he was supposed to take over the inheritance of the mom, but he couldn't because he killed her. Okay, so now we look at the mischief rule. Here, this rule comes into play where there is a lacuna. A lacuna means where there is a gap or traverse. This is to prevent a situation where the court is not able to provide a concrete decision based on the circumstance of the case in accordance with the statutes. And in all that they do, it will also be good for them to reflect the intentions of the people. And then thirdly, or lastly, purposive approach. Here, it is done with the purpose or the purport of that statute. What was the intention of the draftsman with reference to the legislature? So the interpretation is to portray or reflect the intent of the draftsman or the legislature. Now, we're going to be looking at the sections like I said earlier. Okay, so having read the provisions of the law, we could see also that there is a difference. The draftsman was trying to achieve something. If you look at the 1999 Constitution, because for the 1979 Constitution, there was no FCT. Okay, and that drives my mind back to the case Awolowo versus Shagari, where Awolowo was contending that Shehu Shagari did not get up to the required number for the 2/3 of 19 states, because at that time we had 19 states. I think he had 12 states. And if you go by the division, 2/3 of 19 is like 12 points blah, 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 blah. You understand what I'm trying to say? So there's, I think, 12.66 or so, which is a fraction. And he was saying, you had 12, you didn't get up to the required number. And then the problem was this fraction. But now the draftsman was trying to cure that problem going forward. That was why they said, 2/3 of 36 states. At this point, we now have 36 states. And the FCT, which would have made it the 37th state. But is the FCT a state? No. Do you understand? So now, looking at the presidential elections for 2023, do you think, or would you agree that if the president-elect did not, that's Ahmed Tinubu, did not get up to that 1/4 of the votes for FCT, do you think it made sense for him to have emerged the winner? Now, why am I saying this? This is just common sense. For example, the president is the governor in quote of FCT, because FCT is not a state, but people live there. It's a constituency on its own, rather. Okay, people live there, people trade there, people do what other people do in other states there. So, would you say going forward that you won everywhere else other than the place where you're going to be governing people? Because the president in quote is the governor of the FCT. In quotes, like I said, because even though section 299 says, oh, treat the FCT as a state, it did not give us the parameters for that to be applied. Is it during election? Or is it when it comes to, looking at the affairs and everything else that has to do with the state? Is that the only thing? Or I don't want to, I'm just trying to avoid using the word govern, but I know you understand what I'm saying. So then, would you say that the FCT is a state? Because I feel like that section is sort of a mandatory requirement that it's not only, that you have 2/3 of 36 states where you have 1/4 of the votes in there, but it's also saying that where you're going to be residing in, you should be able to get something there. That's a reasonable man's test. But then again, we do not know what the interpretation of the court would be. So let me know, what do you think? Do you think the FCT should be treated as a state, or do you think otherwise? Share your comments. Let's get on. I always say this, Nigeria will be great again. One way or the other. We'll keep believing, we'll keep hoping. See you next time. Bye-bye.